Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here on March 27th for Wednesday. Just a quick recap of our leans yesterday. Both of the main leans that we had won on the show, but they're not going to count toward my personal record, in which I suggested Hampton -2. They ended up winning pretty easily, and I also suggested TCU, who were actually down at the half before dominating in the entire second half against Creighton to get the job done. But we're in another situation where there's not that many games on the college basketball card. But instead of making anybody wait for, another no play of the day, I decided to branch out a little bit. How's it going, B-Phils? Thanks for joining us. I decided to branch out a little bit. So today, the pick of the day is actually going to be on the NBA. Yes, thanks, Brian. I'm glad they worked out nicely. Marshall also took care of business. The one thing that I think I was pretty much wrong on was the Hampton over lean, but my two favorite leans were TCU and Hampton, so those worked out nicely. How's it going, Jeff? Thanks for joining us. So today, we're going to change it up a little bit. I'm used to only giving college basketball picks, but since the college basketball slate is relatively underwhelming once again, hey, Scout, hey, Thomas, thanks for joining me again, we decided to go with the NBA. So one game that we are going to be focusing on in particular is the late game, and I'm aware that this is coming out in the afternoon, but don't worry about it because this game is supposed to tip off at 10:30 Eastern time. We are going to be looking at the Lakers and the Jazz as they will kick off in Utah at roughly 10:30 Eastern time. And the play in this game, we are actually going to be leaning towards the under in this contest at 217. And the reason why we like the under, first of all, Utah's defense has been tremendous in recent games. In their last two games, they have not given up more than 92 points in a single game. The Lakers' offense has played extremely well lately, but they're on the second night of a back-to-back, and it is important to know, which is why I like to give my NBA picks later typically instead of the night before, which is why I was hesitant to give them in the first place, because lineups change any day. And one thing that is reported earlier on is that the Lakers are officially not going to be playing LeBron James tonight, which should result in significantly less points for the Lakers, as LeBron James had, I believe he had another triple-double last night as they were able to beat the Washington Wizards by 18 points last night. And as I check the stats here, LeBron had 23 points, 14 assists, and 7 rebounds. Extremely solid, but we all know that this Lakers supporting cast is underwhelming to say the least. And for me, I think that the under in this Lakers game makes a lot of sense. There are some trends in this game. But first, we're going to talk about the records between both teams. Lakers are 33-41. They've officially been eliminated from playoff contention, where the Jazz are 44-30 and are actually looking to clinch a playoff spot pretty much a day after the Clippers were able to do so, despite the preseason expectations or lack thereof for the other Los Angeles franchise. But quickly to mention the trends, the under is 6-0 in the Lakers' last 6 games when they're starting 5 players combined for more than 140 minutes on the previous day. I know that that's a very specific and loaded stat, but I think that's extremely important because that shows that the Lakers on the second night of back-to-backs tend not to score that many points. The under is also 5-0 in the Lakers' last 5 when their opponent scores 100 or more points in the previous game, which happened with the Wizards yesterday. The under is also 4-0 in the Lakers' last 4 games versus the Western Conference. Whereas for the Jazz, the under is 4-1 in the Jazz's last 5 home games. The under is 4-1 in the Jazz's last 5 games versus the NBA Pacific Division. But the matchups between these two teams, the under is actually 4-1 as well. The main reason why we like the under in this, money's already come in on the under. It's apparently opened up at roughly 219. It is down to 217. I still like it. It's actually coming down to 216.5 in most spots, but it is available at 217 right now at -110 at UWager. I would take this sooner rather than later. This line should drop to roughly 216 by tip. Main reason, LeBron's not playing. According to the projected lineups in LeBron's absence, you also have Tyson Chandler as a game-time decision, Bullock's a game-time decision, and Hart's a game-time decision. The lineup right now the Lakers are expected to roll out, according to RotoWire, is Rondo at the point, Caldwell Pope at the shooting guard, Kuzma at the small forward, you got Wagner at the power forward, and you got McGee at the center. And the one thing that I notice about that is that this game looks like it's going to be kind of a prehistoric type of matchup in the sense of these lineups, where in today's game, you see a lot of small forwards playing power forwards now, or you see a lot of power forwards who are relatively agile or quick as teams like to push the pace. But Utah is also going to be running with Favors and Gobert. So needless to say, you have Wagner and McGee versus Favors and Gobert. Both teams have power forwards. I know Wagner can shoot a little bit, but for the most part, both teams look like they're going to be playing a 3-out, 2-in type of approach with a lot of half-court offenses, as the team's big men will not probably be able to get up and down the court to suit the current over mentality of today's NBA. So I like the under in that game. Plus, the Lakers just played yesterday. I expect them to run out of gas in the second half. Utah's played great defense. Their offense has also been extremely slow lately, but Utah's offense is so slow and methodical under Coach Snyder that I expect points to be a little bit at a premium in this game. Hey, Michael, thanks for joining us. Thomas, I will get to that in a second. I will give, along with you, B-Phils, I will give my college basketball leans in a second. But our pick for March 27th and our first NBA pick of the show is actually going to be on the under between the Utah Jazz and the Los Angeles Lakers. But now I'm going to move on to my leans for college basketball. First of all, the card is even worse than it has been the last 2 days because there's only 3 games on, but our leans were very profitable yesterday as we got the majority of our leans correctly, as alluded to by one of the commenters earlier, as Brian alluded to before. But for the picks tonight, I was originally thinking about giving out Lipscomb as a pick of the day, just because before the NIT started, Lipscomb was actually my pick to win the entire tournament. Because I've watched this team play, I think this team's tremendous, and I watched them lose a heartbreaker to Liberty in their conference championship game in the Atlantic Sun, and we all saw how good Liberty turned out as they won a tournament game, and they even led Virginia Tech at the half. But I'm going to go in order here. You have Coastal Carolina and DePaul. Of course, when you hear both teams, you initially think the over, especially since Coastal Carolina and DePaul both combined for about 170-something plus points in their last respective matchups. So the over originally looks good. It has been steamed up from 160 to 164 at this point in time. Of course, I would lean to the over still in this game, just based on the fact that both teams play no defense whatsoever. In terms of the spread, DePaul is at -8. I would lean Coastal Carolina, especially since Coastal Carolina just went into West Virginia and beat them by double digits. I think Coastal Carolina looks extremely motivated. I think they're in good form. DePaul failed to cover in their last game. They were favored by about 15 points to Longwood and only won by single digits. I think Coastal Carolina is in slightly better form right now. DePaul has more talent, but I think 8 points is a little bit too much to cut it. I think Coastal Carolina will cover it plus the 8 on a small lean there. With Lipscomb and NC State, ton of money poured in on NC State today. Yesterday, it was at 3.5 roughly. Now it is up to 4.5 in most spots, or 5 for NC State as the home team. I still like Lipscomb in here. Yes, the Utah Jazz played tonight against the Los Angeles Lakers at roughly 9:30. So if you go to NBA and you check your respective book, it should be in there. But anyway, moving on, just answering Anho's question. In terms of the rest of college basketball, I like Lipscomb in this spot. I know money's come in on NC State. NC State has not impressed me at all in this NIT tournament. They barely beat Harvard. They struggled with Hofstra. I know both those respective teams are pretty good. But Lipscomb, according to the Selection Sunday, St. John's got in the last spot, but NC Greensboro was actually the first team out, so to speak, as they were the 69th, quote-unquote, best team in the country. And Lipscomb absolutely destroyed them. I mean, if I told you right now NC State played their last 2 games at home against Hofstra and at home against Harvard, and I told you Lipscomb played their last 2 games at Davidson and at UNC Greensboro, which team has the more impressive resume out of those games? And I think that just Lipscomb's definitely more impressive. You won by 17 at UNC Greensboro. They're not afraid of this. They're not afraid of the location. They challenged themselves out of conference play. They gave Louisville a run for their money earlier this season. I think Lipscomb might win this game outright, and I think that they will win the NIT, as I said before. So I will lean to Lipscomb, but I'm not going to lie. The line movement in this game is concerning to me, especially since NC State has been extremely unpredictable, and they have not covered their spread in the last 3 games. Yet money continues to pour on against them, which I find concerning, but I will lean to Lipscomb in this game. To address some of the Laker questions, I'll go back to that in a second. I'm just going to finish up the college basketball card. Between Colorado and Texas, a lot of money on Colorado in this one. The line originally opened up with Texas at -6.5, and now it is down to 5.5 in most spots, with the occasional -5 at Heritage and Bovada. In this game, I really don't have much of a thought on this. I'll lean to Texas, especially with Roach back in the lineup. Texas has a very solid home court. They've struggled this entire season with consistency, but I still think that this team defensively is significantly better than Colorado. Colorado plays extremely well at home because of the fact that they have the altitude advantage, similar to what the Nuggets deal with in the NBA. But overall, I will be going with Texas. I know that they've struggled against Xavier in their last game and stuff like that, but I do think Texas has more talent on its roster, and it will be playing another home game, and I think that that definitely will matter. So I will be leaning towards Texas, especially with the Roach coming off the bench in the last game. Even though they only won by 2 in overtime against Xavier, Roach still had 31 points, and he's still, in my opinion, one of the best on-ball defenders in all of college basketball. So I think that he is extremely important to what the Longhorns want to do, and I think that his absence in the middle of the regular season is a reason why Texas struggled for the length that they did towards the end of the season as he got suspended from the team before being reinstated before the NIT tournament. Do I like the Lakers with the points? That's actually a reason why I was staying away from the points, and I like the total in this game. I know that Utah is going to win this game because of the fact that LeBron's not playing. I know Texas struggled all year, ATS. I don't really have a play. I was just giving my initial leans. Would I ever actually bet the game between Texas and Colorado? No. But I do think Texas is significantly better at home than they are on the road, and I think Colorado benefits from its home court, and I expect Colorado to struggle in its first road game in a while. It's one thing you have to keep in mind is that since these tournaments are not played on neutral sites until like the semifinals, that once teams actually travel on the road, I mean, they're not used to the travel. I know that they've been traveling year-round, but when you play 5 or more consecutive home games, then you have to go back on the highway. It takes a little bit more out of you than it did in the regular season, especially considering the fact that Colorado has played their last 2 games at home and now have to travel on the road to Texas. I lean to Texas. Do I like the under in that game? In terms of totals, money has come in on the over. So I actually will lean towards the over in that game. Actually, I'm seeing conflicting things. Money has actually come in on the under. Sorry about that. I would lean towards the under, but in terms of these totals, I don't really have much of a thought. I wouldn't really give a lean that I'm not that confident in. I'd lean to the under, not really confident. In terms of my favorite leans in college basketball tonight, I would lean to Lipscomb just because I really think that that team led by Brooks, I think their offense is prolific, and I think that that game's going to combine for about 160-something points. And I think Lipscomb will definitely get their own against NC State. But a premium play, as I was going to say before, was the total on the Lakers and Utah game because I know LeBron's not playing. I know Utah has been dominating lately, and I know LA is on the second night of back-to-back. But do you really trust the Jazz laying 16 points? I don't. You got it 216.5. I said Borno before. Thanks for joining us. That line was dropping. It was still available at 217 at a couple of books, so I still gave the line out at 217, specifically at UWager and Heritage and Bovada as well. But it's dropping now. I would take the total under sooner rather than later, as this line will probably drop to 216 or lower before tip. But I don't like laying 16 points with a team. Realistically, the Jazz can blow it open and then bench everybody down the stretch because they're up by double digits, and the Lakers can crawl through the back door. I think the under is a safer play. I don't think the Lakers are going to top 100 in this game. I can see this game turning into like a 106-92 type of game. I think it's going to be relatively low scoring, especially with the lineups that both teams are projected to throw out there. So I will be going with the under. In terms of who gave the video a thumbs down yesterday, I have no idea, but that still means that they tuned in. So I appreciated the fact that they were able to stop by. And just a reminder for all of you who are new, don't forget to like and subscribe, as we will be providing daily content with Scott Selections here at statsalt.com every day. And I always plan on doing that. And I will always be doing that for free on the show. So keep that in mind. Also, but Thomas, to answer your question, I don't know. That's their problem. But the leans worked out, so I don't really care if they don't enjoy the content as long as they enjoy making money. But that's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections. Tomorrow, I will be having another pick of the day on one of the Sweet 16 matchups coming up later that day. I might upload the video later tonight or tomorrow afternoon. That remains to be seen, but there will definitely be another pick of the day tomorrow, and we are going to be going back to our college basketball roots, so to speak, as the college basketball card begins to open up once again with the resuming of the NCAA tournament. And overall, I just want to give a brief recap of what we have so far in the sense of our record. Pulling it up, we are 12-4-1 on this show. All lines at -110 for plus 6.8 units. Nice job, Terry. That's the line that I would prefer to get. I do think it's going to crash, but either or, I'm not going to keep everybody waiting here. That's going to do it for this installment of Scott Selections here for March 27th. It's always great seeing the same familiar faces in the comment section. Don't forget, next time, don't forget to comment. I'll read all the comments. I'll respond to any questions that any of you might have and provide my honest feedback as to an opinion on a game or just some thoughts about betting in general. But that's going to do it. Have a good night, everybody.